I have a lot of experience with copyright, especially at Disney, but also I work with different legal stuff. And actually, for the last 2 months, I've been working on a lot of contracts. Just yesterday, I filled this very important copyright contract. And I say that because, honestly, what bothers me the most with the Pokemon vs. Palworld plagiarism session is that so many people are saying stuff that makes no sense, like zero sense, especially, oh, if they were gonna sue it, they would have done it by now. That is completely false, guys, completely false. So in this video here, guys, I am more rather going to explain how legality actually works, especially for me, right? I remember that Total Not Mark case 3 years ago, where I also made a video about, and people had so much misinformation about how actually copyright works and so on. It is kind of scary, honestly. But anyway, in this video, guys, if you like it, please subscribe, press the like button. We're going to go over a couple of different topics, right? First of all, the whole done it by now, which doesn't make any sense. We talk about how most companies doesn't actually want to go to court. You want to stay out of court, right? And then also into Nintendo might actually already sue them, but they won't make it public, especially in Japan. That's an example of how not to do it with legal stuff. And then, of course, we talk about the actual plagiarism, like obviously over me here, right? This is a college swap, right? And I have to say here immediately that anyone denying that are just lying. Since you all know, right, I am the copyright expert. So, first of all, right, the whole claim that if Nintendo was gonna sue them, they would have done it is completely false. Doesn't make any sense to claim in the reality. And I want the actual legal people say that's just silly. So why? Because the more complicated the case is, the more money that is involved, right? The longer time it takes. I have been working on this legal document that I finally got signed yesterday. I need 5 people where I worked signed as well as the other company, right? That's been going for 2 months, back and forth, different changes, different rule changes, different law things. It takes a lot of time, okay? If you're gonna sue a big company, or even like a small indie company, but enough of number of employees, right? Like the people that did Palworld, you won't do it the first day, okay? It doesn't make any sense. The whole claim of saying that if Nintendo was gonna do it, it would happen already is completely ludicrous. Right? It's been a week, okay? A week! This takes months, even years sometimes, okay? And the more money is involved, the longer time it takes mostly, right? Nintendo isn't just gonna go immediately, but oh yeah, sue them. They're only gonna do that when it's 100% cut and dry clear. For example, that mod to Palworld that literally just took Pokemon modded into the game right there. But I got a case right. While Nintendo is known for being hyper aggressive copyright, the thing is that those are usually for very small, like one person in their mom's basement, like some Rome game, right? Not an actual now $1 million selling game, right? It's absurd to claim Nintendo would have done it immediately. It doesn't make any sense. What they're gonna do is they're gonna spend a lot of time with the lawyers trying, of course, to get a case right. And they're gonna spend more and more time because the more money, the more the game sells right, the more exactly do they want to be able to present their case right. The more money, the longer time it takes. It's just so simple. And obviously, as we see with other YouTubers and whatever, Twitter, so on, Twitch streamers, everyone is finding more and more examples, right? So why would the lawyers immediately be, yeah, let's sue them? No, the lawyers, of course, are gonna make their case, right, and look at every literal, every pal, and try to prove that's right. And the more that's happening, so on. So it's gonna take a lot longer time, okay? If it's been like a year, I would be like, yeah, they're not gonna sue them, right? But a week? Jesus Christ, guys. Legality takes time, okay? Another thing that's important to understand is that you don't want to go to court. Let me tell you a story about me. So I've been there and done that, right, It is very often you don't actually want to go to court. So for example, I was suing this company a couple years ago, in 15, so 9 years ago now, I feel old, right? And for example, so I'm suing them for $3 million, right? But what I actually want, what I'm happy with, is like $1 million, right? I'm suing them for a higher amount of money that's a maximized money I might be able to gain, right? Now, they'll come back to me and say, well, what if you get $1.5 million, right? They're gonna say that because they don't want to go to court, right? Because you might lose more money in court, but you have lawyer fees and time, litigation. So they actually want to give, they want to have some kind of middle ground, right? That's usually what you try for. You don't actually want to go to court, you want to get, something in between, right? And that's important in this case, because Nintendo, if they're gonna sue Palworld, might never go to court, right? And they might have already sued them. They might have sent, an actual, like, you owe us this amount of money, right? We want this amount of money. And then Power will be like, okay, we will give you half of that, or a tenth, or whatever, right? And all that stuff can happen outside the court before you even go to court, right? In almost every case, even with Nintendo. Especially, again, the more money is involved. And if that's happening, we wouldn't know about it. Because the next point, of course, is that they won't talk about that, especially not in Japan. This is not America. We go out like, this is that. No, they will be very, very quiet about the thing, right? Because most companies just want to go out and say, oh, we are being sued for this thing and that thing, right? Because your lawyers will tell you to shut the F up, right? Don't tell them what's happening. Don't go out there and speak this, that. It can be used against you, right, in the courts. So Nintendo might actually already have been suing them or having some kind of process, right? And again, no one will know about it, right? Until, of course, it's over, basically. Depends, of course, what's actually going to happen. And if they have some kind of deal going on, and that deal doesn't go through, then they go to court, right, But seriously, they might not have done yet. Like I said earlier, I don't think Nintendo actually have done that yet with them, going and saying, we want X amount of dollars. I don't think they have done that. But my point is that will happen before they go to court, right? So first, a lot of time will be spent, right, actually planning the court case, which again might be for months, right? Then you sue them and say, I want this amount of money, right? Now, this other company, which is also Japanese, will very unlikely actually say they're getting sued, right, or going to, outside the court, right? So settlement, right? They will do that stuff, and if that can't get through, then they go to court. So I would guess that if they're gonna sue them, and if that actually is gonna be supposed to be open in the public, right? That could be months from now. I hope it's point, months from now, okay? Because again, if they're in the first step of we want X money, they won't tell anyone, right? And that brings me to Totally Not Mark, right? So Totally Not Mark is a good example of how not to do it, right? So I made a couple of videos about him when he was having this argument with the toy, right? He was gonna sue them or whatnot and all that stuff. But my basic point is that Totally Not Mark is the perfect example how not to do it in legal courts, right? So what he did is that he made 3 videos, and in one of his videos, second video, he straight up lied about his, so to speak, association or contract with Toei, right? He worked for them and so on, and that was all lies, right? And then his third video he made, he later took down. He had to go out and apologize. Oh, I did, that wasn't true. That was actually how it was, So now I don't bring it up just to be like, oh, Mark or whatever. I bring it up as a perfect example, I said, right? Because this is what your lawyers will tell you. Because I made a video being like, Mark, please stop talking, right? It's like, no, don't talk. Don't go out and say, we did this thing, they lost that thing, right? And again, even more so in the Japanese culture, the companies in Japan are going to go out and be like, oh yeah, it's Pokemon, Nintendo, Game Freak. They're going to be very, very quiet about stuff, right? But in his case, right, he literally lied about both YouTube, how it works at Google and so on, but especially about very weird stuff about Toei, right? And if they actually would go to court with Toei, Marvel's Toei, he obviously would have probably lost that court for many reasons why, but especially because he made it worse for himself, right? And again, that's also when I point out that this is why people keep quiet, right? And because we have the Nintendo letter, right? When Nintendo you say that we are aware of Palworld, that's why I bring it up, right? Nintendo is doing what Mark should have done, where they're just being very, very quiet about it. The only thing they're very neutral, like we are aware of something happening, right? That is legal context for like, oh, we have our lawyers on it, but we're not gonna say what's happening, right? Because they don't want to say anything stupid that can make it worse out our case, right? And about the actual plagiarism. Like I said earlier, I'm not actually interested in this topic, right? I'm interested in people not understanding how the law works, honestly. So the video, subscribe to that button, want more of that video, right? But just to be fair or whatever, let's address it, so to speak, right? Of course, a lot of people have made many videos showing all the different, comparisons and so on, right? I'm just gonna give you my take here with obvious image over me. And yeah, of course it's plagiarism. Of course it is, right? There is no question in my mind, with any legal business I have, that this game is copywriting Pokemon, right? To some extent. Like I said in my video, of course not every PAL is not a copyright infringement on Pokemon. Of course it isn't, right? But are they copyright infringement in this game? I would say yes. I would say yes. There are some cases where it's obscenely similar cases, where it's just like, well, that's obviously Pokemon. You swap the color of it, yeah. And anyone saying otherwise are obviously being dishonest, because either they just want, I don't know, they like this game for whatever reason, they don't like Nintendo Game Freak or whatever, whatever reasons, right? But anyone claiming that there aren't some straight up copies are just lying to you. I mean, come on, like they obviously are. Now, will they lose in court though? That's a much harder question, right? Like in my last video, when I went over and said that the actual gameplay is nothing like Pokemon, which it isn't. And that obviously helps them in a legal case, because if they've taken all the skins or whatever, right, all the all the models, put it in their game, and the gameplay was exactly the same, then it would obviously be like, well, yeah, like this game is just the exact same game, right? Like that would be way clearer. Now, the gameplay is completely different, so that helps them, right? Because then you can talk about how different it is on one. One thing that was very interesting here, though, is that this is made by a Japanese company, though, and Japan doesn't really have fair use, so that's something that's very tricky. In America, it would be much easier, but no, in Japanese court, it's interesting, just to point out. But it is kind of tricky, even in Japanese court, because they obviously aren't exactly the same, but it's just like there are too similar, some of them. Now, I don't have a number here, but I'm sure some people have, a lot of people are doing stuff about this, right? And I'm sure someone has like a good number on how many paths are actually far too similar. And of course, it's up to a judge to decide, right? How many are similar. But in my estimation, and this is kind of a rough estimation, right? I would say it's probably like 20, maybe 30% are way too similar, right? But again, is that enough to lose the Japanese court? That's really hard to say. Honestly, even in Japanese court, right? So it is a tricky thing, and I think that they have made a mistake, honestly, Palworld, by being too similar, right? I think that, for example, the Electabuzz example is a good, I think, like, okay, it is clearly Electabuzz, but he's like more Totoro, someone said, right? He's like a really fat Electabuzz. Still probably too similar, but, if every pad was like that, it would be bad as well. But if every that is similar was like that, it might be fine, right? The problem is that you have some other pads which like straight up almost just like a color swap, right? Which is like, oh, it's green instead of red. Like it's far too similar. I think the Electabuzz case, it is like, similar enough to clearly know what I'm talking about, but it's not exactly the same thing. But there's some other cases where it's far too similar. It is definitely on, on the edge, right? I feel it on the edge. And again, I keep saying it, that, like I said earlier in the video, that is why Nintendo hasn't said anything yet, right? Because this game is probably too much plagiarization, but it's not clearly enough plagiarization where they can't just sue them immediately. They have to actually make a quite hardcore legal case, right? So they have to spend a lot of time making that case. And I think they are doing that, right? I think they will do it. But again, they might also say, well, it's going to be hard to win, right? So it really depends. It definitely is just on that edge where it's hard to say or not. And like I keep saying, that's why they're gonna spend months, right? Probably. Seriously, they might spend months trying to analyze if it's worth it or not, right? And I can imagine them still trying to stay out of court, right? Lastly, I do want to put out this thing though. Nintendo likes to go hardcore, right? They like to go hardcore. They like to really push people down. On that sense, they're quite known for that. So it could be interesting in an actual court case, because I could see Nintendo, if they actually go to court, Nintendo probably will refuse to give up, Nintendo is going to be like, we don't want to settle, we just want to go to court, yeah. If Nintendo actually takes them to court, they will maximize it, right? That's Nintendo. So in that case, Power might be in a lot of legal trouble, because I could see them losing, absolutely. It's not cut and dry, but so on. But again, if Nintendo actually takes them to court, they're going to go for everything, right? And they will refuse to settle down. They will absolutely refuse to like take something half-ass. Nintendo will 100% say, we don't care if it costs lawyer fees because we have an infinite money. We just wanna, shut you down. So I can see this go to court. And I can see Nintendo, and if it goes to court, Nintendo will absolutely be like, lawyering down 100%, is stalling it out, costing them money and so on. So that might be a strategy too. Nintendo might just try to ruin it for them by really prolonging it. And that's probably what they will do, I think, regardless. If they will win or not, they will probably take as much time as possible. Right? It's a classic strategy if you're a much bigger company. See it all the time in America, right? But again, that's the video, guys. Like, please subscribe, press the like button, and what do you guys think?